My name is Maud, and I am 58 years old. For 35 of those years, the heartbeat of my life has been this house, the one with the willow tree in the front yard, and the kitchen floor that still creaks near the refrigerator, a sound I know like my own breath. I raised my daughter here. I lost my husband here. And 2 years ago, my daughter and her husband moved in to help me, or so I thought. It started with small things, her taking over. I told myself she meant well. But then last Tuesday, everything came to a head over something as simple as a cookie jar. Before I share what happened next, I have to ask you, if you have ever felt your own space, your own peace, slowly being taken from you, would you do me a kindness? Let me know where you are watching from today in the comments below. And if you are willing to walk with me through this difficult memory, please hit that like button and subscribe. Having you here listening makes this easier to tell. The cookie jar was not fancy. It was a lumpy piece of pottery, glazed in bright blue and green with a crooked lid. Diane made it in 3rd grade. She was so proud. It lived on our counter for decades, holding more than just cookies. It held scraps of paper with grocery lists, spare keys, and later my husband Robert's heart medication. After he passed, it held his wedding band for a long year before I could put it away. That jar was a landmark in our kitchen. I found it in the recycling bin, not tucked away gently, but tossed on top of a cereal box. I felt a physical jolt. I pulled it out, wiping a bit of old coffee grounds from its side. Diane walked in her heels, clicking on the new tile she had chosen. "Oh, that old thing," she said, not looking at me as she filled her water bottle. "It was so dated, Mom. It clashed with the new aesthetic. I ordered a beautiful ceramic canister set from that artisan site I told you about." My throat tightened. "This is not old thing, Diane. You made this." "I know what it is," she said, her voice taking on that patient, explaining tone she used more and more. "But we are updating the house. You have to let go of some of this clutter. It is not healthy to cling so hard to the past." Clutter. My daughter called a piece of her childhood a piece of my history with her clutter. Greg walked through the kitchen, then giving me a small, awkward smile before looking quickly at his phone. He said nothing. He never did. That was the first real crack. But the cracks had been spreading for months. It began subtly after they settled in. Diane would say, "Let me handle the bills, Mum, it is too confusing for you." Then it was, "I redecorated the guest room. That floral wallpaper was so depressing." It was my sewing room. The wallpaper was one Robert and I put up together. Then my small workshop in the garage where I would refinish furniture became storage for their Peloton and home gym equipment. My tools were boxed up and shoved into a corner. Each time I swallowed my protest. I told myself she was trying to help, that I should be grateful for the company. The house had been so quiet, so empty after Robert died. Having life in it again was a gift. Was not it? But the gift started to feel like a slow, gentle siege. I felt myself shrinking, moving from room to room like a ghost, trying not to disrupt her new vision for my home. The financial talk started a few weeks after the cookie jar. We were having dinner, a silent affair, mostly just the sound of cutlery. "Mum," Diane said, wiping her mouth. "Greg and I have been thinking. It is chaotic, all of us paying separate bills for this one house. It would be so much simpler if we just pooled our resources. We can set up a joint account for household expenses. You can just transfer your Social Security and the pension into it, and we will manage everything. One less thing for you to worry about in your golden years." My golden years. The phrase felt like a thin blanket she was trying to wrap around me, one that would smother me. I looked at her, this beautiful, capable stranger who used to be my little girl. "I have managed my own bills for 40 years, Diane. I think I can handle it." "It is not about ability," Greg chimed in, finally looking up. "It is about efficiency and security. What if you forget a payment or get one of those scam calls? This way we protect you. Protect me. The words echoed. I did not feel protected. I felt managed. I felt like an asset that was becoming a liability. I said I would think about it, the same phrase I used for every suggestion I wanted to escape. That night in my room, I called Ben. Ben Adler was Robert's oldest friend and our estate attorney. He handled everything after Robert's death. Ben, it is Maud, I said, my voice low. Maud, good to hear your voice. Everything all right? He asked. I could hear the concern. I never called at night. I do not know, I said, and the truth of it surprised me. I told him about the small changes, the not-so-small suggestion about money. I did not make it sound dramatic. I made it sound like I was maybe just an old woman resistant to change. He listened quietly. Then he said, Maud, you remember when Robert and I bought that old fishing boat? The one that nearly sank the first time we took it out? I smiled faintly. Robert said something I never forgot. He said, Ben, the problem is not the water outside the boat. The problem is forgetting you are the one who needs to bail. Ben paused. You are the captain of your ship, Maud. Robert always wanted you to feel safe in your own harbour. Never forget what is yours. We talked a little more about nothing important, but his words stuck. My harbour. My ship. I looked around my bedroom, the last room Diane had not touched. It still had our old quilt, the books on Robert's nightstand, exactly where he left them. For the first time, I felt not just sadness, but a prickling of defence. The next offence was the lock. Robert's study, which Diane now called the home office, had its original brass doorknob. One Tuesday, I went to get a book from the shelf inside a volume of Robert Frost poems Robert loved. The knob would not turn. A new, sleek silver lock was in its place. When I asked Diane, she was ready. Oh, the old lock was totally insecure. A credit card could pop it. We keep our tax documents and my work laptop in there now. Greg installed a smart lock. I will program your fingerprint into it soon. Soon. It was always soon. But soon never came. That room with Robert's old oak desk and the smell of his pipe tobacco still faint in the curtains was now locked away from me. I stood outside the door, my hand on the cool, unfamiliar metal. I felt locked out of my own life. The feeling was no longer just prickling. It was a cold, solid weight in my chest. I was bailing, but the water was coming in faster. The tension in the house became a third resident, thick and silent. Diane and Greg moved through their days with a focused energy, discussing paint swatches for the exterior, getting estimates for a new backyard deck. Their conversations were full of we and our, and I was never included in that we. I was a spectator in the renovation of my own existence. Then the flyers started appearing. For Sunset Meadows Assisted Living and the Laurels Senior Community. They were left on the kitchen island as if by accident. Full-colour brochures showing vibrant silver-haired people laughing in art classes or walking on manicured paths. Diane would say, "Oh, one of the girls at work was raving about this place for her mum. Looks nice, does not it?" She would watch me from the corner of her eye as I pushed the glossy paper away. I began spending more time out of the house. I would go to the library or just drive. One afternoon I drove past Ben's office. On an impulse, I parked and went in. His secretary, a woman who had known Robert, smiled warmly and showed me right in. Ben stood up from his desk. "Maud, this is a surprise." He took in my face and his own smile faded. "Sit down. Tell me." And I did. I told him everything. No longer minimizing it. The lock. The flyers. The joint account pressure. The way my workshop was now a gym, how my favorite armchair had been donated because it did not match. I told him about the cold, explaining tone in Diane's voice and Greg's silent complicity. My voice shook, but I did not cry. The cold weight in my chest held everything in. Ben listened, his face growing graver. When I finished, he steepled his fingers. Have they made any direct legal claims to the property? Asked you to sign anything? No, not yet. Just suggestions, strong suggestions. Maud, he said gently, the house is in your name, solely. You inherited Robert's share. You are the undisputed legal owner. What they are doing is called undue influence. It is a form of psychological pressure to get you to give up your assets or your autonomy. It is not illegal until it crosses a very specific line, but it is deeply unethical. Hearing him say it, giving it a name, made it real. It was not just in my head. I was not a difficult old woman. I was under siege. What do I do, Ben? You have a few options. You can formally ask them to leave. You can start formal eviction proceedings if they refuse. Or, he leaned forward, you can remove the asset from the equation entirely. What does that mean? It means you can sell the house, Maud. The idea was so monumental, so catastrophic, it took my breath away. Sell the house. Leave the willow tree, the creaking floorboard. Robert's ghost in the hallway. I cannot, I whispered. I am not suggesting you should. I am telling you that you can. It is your absolute right. The power is yours. You just have to decide if you want to use it. He wrote something on a notepad. In the meantime, do not sign anything. Do not agree to any financial mergers. And if they threaten you or try to force you out, you call me immediately. And you call the police if you feel unsafe. The police. The thought of calling the police on my own daughter made me sick. I left Ben's office with his words ringing in my ears. The power is yours. It felt like a foreign concept. The final straw was not a suggestion. It was a bill. The annual property tax statement arrived a hefty 5-figure sum. I had always paid it from the account that held Robert's life insurance and my pension. It was my one big annual financial duty. Diane opened it. I saw her face pale, then flush with anger. This is insane, she snapped, waving the paper. How can they charge this much? This is why we need to downsize for you, Mum. This is unsustainable. It is the same as it always is, Diane. I have it budgeted. Budgeted from what? She shot back. Your fixed income. That is not budgeting, that is draining a limited resource. Greg and I are pouring money into this place, updating it, maintaining it. We are subsidizing your life in a house that is too big and too expensive for you. Her words were like slaps. Subsidizing your life. As if my presence in my own home was a charity case they were funding. Greg stood behind her, a silent pillar of support. It is my home, I said, my voice low and trembling. Mine and your father's. We paid for every brick. We raised you here. This is not you subsidizing me. This is you living in my home. She laughed, a short, bitter sound. Your home, Mum, wake up. Who cooks the meals? Who manages the repairs? Who deals with the landscapers? You live in a fantasy world. This house is a full-time job, and Greg and I are the ones doing the work. You are just here, existing in the past. I looked from her furious face to Greg's impassive one. The cold weight in my chest cracked, and a searing, hot pain shot through me. If that is how you feel, I said, each word measured, then perhaps you and Greg should find a place that you feel is truly yours. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. Maybe we should. But you are not hearing me. You are the one who needs to find a new place. A manageable place. A suitable place. We found a lovely 2-bedroom villa at Sunset Meadows. They have a wait list, but I pulled some strings. We can go tour it tomorrow. She said it. The unspoken plan was now spoken. They were not just suggesting. They were executing. They were going to put me in a home and take my house, my own daughter. No, I said. The word was quiet but final. Mum, be reasonable. No, I am not leaving my home. Then you leave us no choice, she shouted, her composure shattering. You are being selfish. You are holding on to a pile of bricks and memories, while Greg and I are trying to build a future. Our future in our house. It is not your house, I shouted back, a surge of adrenaline making my heart pound. It is in my name. It is mine. She stepped so closer to me, I could see the fury in her pupils. Her voice dropped to a venomous, shaking whisper. Get out. I blinked. What? Get out. Get out of my house, or I will call the cops and have you removed for trespassing. Time stopped. The world shrank to her face, twisted in a rage I had never seen, and those words hanging in the air between us. Trespassing. In the home where I changed her diapers, where I held her through nightmares, where I taught her to ride a bike in the driveway. Greg would not look at me. He studied the floor as if it were the most fascinating thing he had ever seen. I did not say another word. What was there to say? I turned. I walked calmly to the foyer, took my purse from the hook, my car keys from the bowl. I put on my light spring jacket. I opened the front door and stepped out into the cool evening air. I did not look back. I heard the door shut firmly behind me, a sound of absolute finality. I sat in my car, parked under the harsh fluorescent lights of the all-night grocery store parking lot. My hands were clenched on the steering wheel, knuckles white, but the rest of me was numb. The searing pain had been flash-frozen by the shock. I replayed the scene. Her words. Get out. I will call the cops. It played on a loop, each time feeling less real and more devastating. I thought of Robert. What would he do? He was a calm man, a fair man, but he had a core of steel when his family was threatened. He would not have tolerated this for a minute. He would have protected what was his. He would have protected me. Ben's voice joined Robert's in my head. The power is yours. You are the captain. Robert wanted you safe in your own harbour. My harbour. It had just been invaded and I had been expelled from it. By my own first mate. I looked at my house keys on the ring. The key to the front door, the back door, the garage. All the keys except the one to Robert's study. I thought about the deed to the house locked in the fireproof box in the top of my closet. I thought about my name, typed neatly on the line that said, Owner. Maud Eleanor Wilson, sole and separate property. Diane had forgotten that. In her mind, through sheer force of will and domestic management, she had transferred ownership. She thought her threats had power. She thought my compliance was weakness. The numbness began to thaw, replaced by a clear, cold certainty. It was not anger. It was resolve. A profound, deep-boned resolve that I had not felt since the early days after Robert's death, when I had to learn how to be just one person instead of half of a pair. I picked up my phone. My fingers were steady. I did not scroll through my contacts, looking for a friend to cry to. I went to my recent calls. I found the number for Sandra Petrovic. Sandra was a real estate agent. She had sold the Miller's house down the street in a record 2 weeks last fall. Ruth Miller had told me that Sandra, she is a shark, but she is your shark. She gets it done. It was almost 9:30 at night, an unreasonable time to call. I did not care. I pressed the call button. It rang 3 times. Sandra Petrovic, a brisk, alert voice answered. No hello, just her name. It was the voice of someone who was always working. Sandra, this is Maud Wilson, from Elm Street, Ruth Miller's neighbour. A slight pause, then recognition. Maud, of course. What can I do for you? It is a bit late, is everything all right? There was a flicker of professional concern. No, I said, my voice even and firm. Everything is not all right. But I need to make it right. I need to sell my house. I need it listed tomorrow. First thing in the morning. Another pause longer this time. I could almost hear her recalibrating, shifting from a potential late-night nuisance to a serious client. Okay, tomorrow. That is fast. Are you prepared? Do you have a plan? This is a big decision, Maud. It is the only decision, I said. I want it listed before 9 a.m. And Sandra, I want a quick sale. Price it to sell. I am not looking for a bidding war. I am looking for a fast, clean closing. Can you do that? I heard the click of a keyboard in the background. I can. I will need access first thing to take photos. And the signed listing agreement. Do you have somewhere to be during showings? I will be out, I said. I will meet you at the house at 7:45. We can sign everything then. Bring your camera. 7:45? She repeated. I will be there. Maud, is there anything else I should know? Anything about the occupancy? The house is occupied by myself and 2 other adults. They are month-to-month tenants with no formal lease. They will be given formal notice to vacate. That is not your concern. Your concern is selling the property. The line was silent for a beat. Sandra was sharp. She heard what I was not saying. Understood. Not my concern. I will see you at 7:45, Maud. Get some rest if you can. I hung up. I did not feel tired. I felt electrified. I opened a travel app on my phone and booked a room at the budget motel near the highway for the night. It was clean and anonymous. Then I drove there, checked in, and lay on the stiff bed in the dark. I did not cry. I planned. I thought about the next call I had to make. The most important one. The one that would make it all real. I waited until exactly 8 o'clock the next morning. Then I called Ben Adler's direct line. Ben, it is Maud. Maud, you called. What happened? I need you to draft a formal 30-day notice to vacate. From me, the property owner, to Diane Wilson and Greg Henderson. They are residing at my address without a lease. I want it sent today, certified mail. And I want a copy hand-delivered by a process server if possible. Ben did not miss a beat. Consider it done. I will messenger a copy to you for your records as well. Where should I send it? I gave him the motel address. There was a long silence on his end. Maud, he said, his voice thick with an emotion I could not name. Respect, sorrow. Are you sure? Last night, Diane told me to get out of her house, or she would call the police on me for trespassing. I said the words clinical, now stripped of their hurt. So I left, and I called a realtor instead. I am sure, Ben. I have never been more sure of anything. He let out a long breath. Okay, then let's get to work. I am proud of you, Maud. Robert would be too. That almost broke me. But I held on. Thank you, Ben. Send the papers. I showered, put on a crisp blouse and slacks, and drove to meet Sandra. I felt like I was going into battle. Armed, not with weapons, but with paperwork and a deed. Sandra was already at the house, a sleek black SUV parked in the driveway. She was a tall woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense handshake. She took in my motel keycard, peeking out of my purse, but said nothing. We went inside. Diane and Greg were at the kitchen island drinking coffee. They looked up, surprised to see me, then wary, seeing Sandra with her tablet and professional demeanor. Mum! Diane began, her voice a mixture of annoyance and forced calm. Where were you? We were worried. I was safe, I said, my voice devoid of warmth. Diane Gregg, this is Sandra Petrovic, my real estate agent. The words hung in the air. Diane's face went through a series of transformations. Confusion, disbelief, dawning horror. You're... What? Sandra is listing the house for sale today. I continued walking past them to the dining room table. I opened my folder, took out the copies of the deed and my ID Sandra had asked me to bring. The listing will be active by 9 a.m. Showings will begin immediately. You cannot be serious. Diane exploded, shooting up from her stool. You cannot sell this house. This is our home. It is my house. I corrected her, not looking up as I signed the listing agreement Sandra placed in front of me. The deed, the mortgage, the taxes, all in my name. You are residents here, and as residents, you will be receiving formal notice today that you have 30 days to vacate the premises so the sale can proceed smoothly. Greg finally found his voice. Maud, this is extreme. Let us talk about this. We can work something out. His tone was placating, the tone you use on an unreasonable child. There is nothing to work out, Greg, I said, looking at him directly. The decision is made. Sandra let us start with the living room. Diane moved to block my path. No, you are not doing this. You are a vindictive old woman. This is insane. I will not allow it. I stopped and looked at her. Really looked at her. The daughter I loved was buried deep beneath this furious, entitled stranger. Diane, I said, my voice quiet but carrying. Last night you told me to get out, or you would call the police. So I am getting out, and I am taking the house with me. You have 30 days. I suggest you start packing. I saw the moment it truly hit her. The power dynamic she had so carefully constructed, where she was the capable adult and I was the dependent parent, shattered. The house was not hers. It had never been hers. She had no legal standing, no leverage. Her threat had been empty. Mine was not. Her face crumpled, but it was not into tears of remorse. It was into rage. You will regret this. You will die alone. I am your daughter. That is what makes this so tragic, I said, and I meant it. I felt a wave of profound grief, but it did not stop me. I walked around her with Sandra. We toured the house. Sandra clicked photos, made notes about square footage and original hardwood floors. Diane followed us from room to room, a furious ghost, ranting about betrayal, about family, about how I was destroying her future. Greg trailed behind her, trying to calm her, his arguments growing more desperate. He offered to buy the house from me, at a fair family discount. I did not even respond, even by. In my bedroom, Sandra pointed to a large crack in the ceiling plaster. We will need to note that. Might need a repair. It has been there for 20 years, I said. Since the big ice storm. Robert and I meant to fix it. I touched the old quilt on the bed. I would take that. The books, my clothes, the few pieces of jewelry from my mother. The rest could be sold or donated. The weight of decades of possessions suddenly felt like just that weight. When we were done, Sandra left to upload the photos and activate the listing. I stayed behind to gather some personal items. Diane was in the kitchen, crying angry tears into her hands. Greg was on the phone, his voice low and urgent, probably with a lawyer. I went upstairs and packed a single suitcase. As I zipped it closed, I looked out the window at the willow tree. Its long, graceful branches swayed in the morning breeze. I had planted it with Robert, the spring after Diane was born. For her to climb one day, he had said. She never climbed it. She thought it was messy. Goodbye, I whispered to the tree, to the room, to the ghost of the life I had lived here. Then I walked downstairs, suitcase in hand, and left without saying another word. The process server delivered Ben's notice that afternoon. I know because Diane called me 12 times in succession. I sent all her calls to voicemail. The messages progressed from threats to pleading to bargaining to tearful apologies. I listened to them all once. Then I deleted them. The bridge was not just burned, it was dismantled plank by her own hands. I was now on the other side of a wide, uncrossable river. The 30 days that followed were a whirlwind of cold logistics and hot emotions. The house, priced aggressively, drew immediate interest. Sandra held open houses twice a week. I would stay in my motel room or at the library, imagining strangers walking through my rooms, judging my furniture, peeking into closets. Diane and Greg, now faced with the concrete reality of eviction and a parade of prospective buyers, scrambled. They hired a lawyer, of course. He sent a letter to Ben full of bluster about elder coercion and undue influence, by me claiming I was not of sound mind to make such a decision, that Sandra and Ben had taken advantage of me. Ben's response was a masterpiece of legal succinctness. He attached a recent perfectly clear report from my annual physical, signed by my doctor. He included copies of the deed and the certified mail receipt for the eviction notice. He ended with a line that I loved. Our client, Mrs. Wilson, is exercising her unequivocal property rights. Any further attempts to interfere with the sale of her home or to defame her mental capacity will be met with immediate legal action for harassment and slander. Their lawyer backed down quickly. The threat of a lawsuit they could not win was a potent deterrent. Diane then tried the personal approach. She showed up at my motel room one evening, her eyes red. "Mum, please. I am sorry, I was wrong. I was stressed about money, about the future. I did not mean those things. Can we just go home and talk as a family?" I stood in the doorway, not inviting her in. "We are talking now, Diane, and there is no home to go back to. It is under contract. The inspection is tomorrow." She flinched. "You are really doing this? You are really throwing me out? You evicted me first," I said, my voice tired. "You just did not have the legal authority to make it stick. All I did was make it official. Our relationship cannot survive living together. Maybe if we have space, it can survive at all. But not like this." "You are choosing a house over me," she cried, the victim narrative sliding neatly into place. "No," I said, shaking my head slowly. "I am choosing myself. For the first time in a very long time, I am choosing my own peace, my own safety, my own sovereignty. You should try it sometime. It is liberating." She left her shoulders slumped in defeat. The anger seemed to have finally drained out of her, replaced by a hollow realization. She had played her hand and lost everything. The sale closed in 3 weeks. All cash, offer no contingencies. A young couple with a baby on the way. They loved the willow tree. As I signed the final papers at the title company, a profound calm settled over me. It was done. With the proceeds, I bought a small modern condominium in a quiet complex 2 towns over. It had no creaky floors, no history, no ghosts. The walls were blank canvases. I furnished it sparingly with only the things I truly loved. Robert's books, our quilt, a few good lamps, the kitchen table from my mother. And on an open shelf in the new, bright kitchen, I placed the lumpy blue and green cookie jar. Diane and Greg rented an apartment. We did not speak for 2 months after the move. The first contact was a text on my birthday. "Happy birthday, Mum." I replied, "Thank you." It was civil. Empty, but civil. Now we have lunch once a month, at a neutral restaurant. The conversation is strained, careful. We talk about her job, the weather, a movie. We do not talk about the house. We do not talk about that night. The love is still there, I think, but it is a wounded thing, walking with a permanent limp. There is a new, wary respect between us. She knows I have boundaries and that I will enforce them. It is not the relationship I wanted, but it is the one her choices left us with. In the quiet of my new condo, I found parts of myself I thought were gone. I joined a woodworking club at the community center. I made a beautiful cherrywood keepsake box. I made new friends, women my age, who were also rediscovering themselves after loss or change. We go to films. We try new recipes. The silence here is not the silence of emptiness, but of peace. It is mine to fill or to enjoy, or to... The willow tree is still there. I drive by the old house sometimes when I'm in that part of town. I do not feel a pull to go back. I feel a quiet acknowledgement. That was a chapter. A long, beautiful, painful chapter. I hope the new family is happy there. I hope they fill it with more kindness than filled its final days with me. What I learned through all of this is that love does not mean surrender. It does not mean erasing yourself to make room for someone else's version of your life. Sometimes the most loving act for yourself, and in a strange way for the person hurting you, is to stand firm, to say no, with the full weight of your being. It is not about drama or revenge, it is about integrity. It is about drawing a line in the sand of your own soul and refusing to let anyone blur it. Letting go of a place, even one woven through with your entire history, is not the same as letting go of yourself. In fact, it can be the very act that brings you back to yourself. I am Maud. I am 58. And for the first time in years, I am finally truly home. If you have ever had to make a difficult choice to protect your own peace, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. Sharing our stories reminds us we are not alone. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like. It lets me know these hard-earned lessons mean something to others. Subscribe for more conversations about family healing and finding strength in unexpected places. And if you know someone who might need to hear this today, please share it with them. Thank you for listening, for being part of this community, and for honoring your own journey. Be kind to yourselves.